Mr. Speaker, like many Americans, I am outraged by what Trump is doing to the Cuban people. The oil blockade enacted by the Trump administration is cruel and indefensible. Cuba poses no threat to us, yet we are strangling an entire nation with economic warfare. These tactics are designed to suffocate an island into submission. Make no mistake, this unconscionable suffering is occurring because Trump is trying to force regime change.
I get so irritated. Irritated is the wrong word. Angry. When I find out that people take advantage of the American people's generosity. It makes me want to knee someone in the groin. It just makes me furious. And I think the American taxpayers feel the same way. What I'm about, and it is a fact that the politicians, not the employees, the rank and file employees and the welfare offices, but the politicians in Minnesota let this happen. It is disgusting, Mr. President. Disgusting. We're trying to put together a budget right now. And we've got state officials in Minnesota, because they wanted votes, that are allowing people in their state who are crooks to steal $1 billion from the American taxpayer. Money that could have gone to people who really were homeless, and children who really were hungry, and kids who, through no fault of their own, really were autistic, instead of stolen, a portion of which allegedly was sent to a terrorist organization in Somalia. Man, these people ought to all be put in jail, including the politicians. Makes me want to stick my head in.
All right, I just watched those opening moments, and I'm not gonna lie, it hits like deja vu. You've got Ilhan Omar up there, talking about moral outrage on the world stage. And I'm thinking, haven't we seen this play before? Big words, global focus, while something much closer to home is quietly unraveling. Then in comes John Kennedy, and he's not dressing it up. He's pulling back the curtain on what looks like a massive betrayal of taxpayer trust. And the more you sit with it, the harder it is to ignore. We're not talking small-time politics here. We're talking about money meant for vulnerable people, and somehow it's at the center of something deeply wrong. And where things stand now? That gap between what's being said and what's actually happening. It's starting to feel less like politics and more like a serious moral disconnect.
In our country, when you are hungry, we feed you. When you are homeless, we house you. When you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. We spend trillions of dollars a year helping our friends and neighbors who are less fortunate than we are. And that's rare in this world. I've been all over our wonderful world. You have too, Mr. President. And in many countries, if you get down on your luck, they'll let you die in a ditch. But not in America. Not in America. We take care of our fellow citizens. I'm about to tell you, Mr. President, let me apologize in advance, is deeply disgusting. It's deeply disgusting. I mean, it is clown world on steroids. And when I first read about this, Mr. President, I read it a second time because I experienced slack-jawed astonishment. And when I read it a second time and I realized it was true, I just wanted to run away screaming. What am I talking about? So far, 59 people have been convicted, 86 have been charged, and 78 of them are of Somali ancestry. That's just a fact. Now, what these criminals did they had three very elaborate schemes. The first scheme was centered on supposedly feeding hungry children in the Somali community. A group, a nonprofit run by some people with Somali ancestry. The name of the nonprofit was called Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future went to the welfare authorities in the state of Minnesota, which of course was administering federal taxpayer money, and they said, "Look, Feeding Our Children said, Feeding Our Future said, we want to feed hungry children in the Somali community." And the welfare people in state government in Minnesota gave them the money to do that. It started out very small.
I'm sitting here going over this again, and honestly, the more I think about it, the harder it is to shake. It's not just the scale, it's the audacity. You hear John Kennedy lay it out, and your first reaction is disbelief. Then it turns into frustration, because deep down, this is exactly the kind of story people worry about when they talk about broken systems. And what really hits me is this isn't some complicated gray area. The way it's being framed, money meant for feeding kids, helping the homeless, supporting families dealing with autism. And somehow, it all gets twisted into these schemes? I mean, we've heard versions of government waste before, sure. That's not new, but this feels different. This feels personal, because it's targeting the very programs people rely on when they have nothing else. Then you've got Ilhan Omar in the middle of all this, and I can't help but think about that disconnect. The focus on global issues, the speeches, the outrage. And meanwhile, back home, something this serious is allegedly unfolding. It creates this tension that's hard to ignore, like two completely different realities are being presented at the same time. And when Kennedy talks about officials being warned, flags being raised, and nothing happening, that's where it really starts to sting. Because if that part holds up, then we're not just talking about fraud, we're talking about people seeing it and choosing not to act. And why? That's the question that keeps lingering. Fear of backlash? Protecting political ground? Whatever the reason, if votes start mattering more than vulnerable people, that's where trust really breaks down. Fast forward to now, and you can feel the frustration building around stories like this. Not just because of what allegedly happened, but because of how it's handled or not handled. The sense that if the roles were reversed, the reaction might look very different. That's what fuels the anger people are expressing. And I think that's why Kennedy's tone resonates with a lot of folks. It's not polished, it's not diplomatic, it's raw. It sounds like someone who's just fed up saying what others won't. Whether you agree with him or not, that kind of bluntness cuts through in a way carefully crafted statements don't. At the end of the day, this stops being about party lines and starts being about something more basic, accountability. If something this serious can happen around programs meant to help the most vulnerable, and no one at the top answers for it, then yeah, people are going to ask hard questions. So now it really comes down to this. Where does responsibility actually land? And more importantly, who's willing to follow it all the way through?